Had to find my camera. Now that I have my camera, I know who to look at. So we are calling all boss babaes and creative kabayan.
Liz!
Oh man, it's off, but we're rolling with the punches.
We're off.
Do you want to start again, or do we just keep going?
No, just keep going.
Keep going.
Just roll with the punches.
All
That's
right.
what we're doing.
Basically, you got 3 out of your 4 titas today, and with this show, we are just trying to redefine and connect what it means to be tita.
Yes, we all definitely need a break. So we are here collecting ourselves, as you can see.
Or not collecting
Or
ourselves.
not collecting ourselves.
Freestyling.
And today we're going to do a little bit of self-assessment, a little bit of self-awareness discussions. You'll see throughout the episode we're a little off today.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
Feeling a little loopy, but we
My
showed
women,
up and we're here.
My women, you know what it is.
Oh man, just got to keep on showing up. Isn't that life right there?
Sure is.
I think that's the only thing you can do sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah.
How's everyone doing though? We'll start there.
Are we all going to exhale first?
I kind of like that. Yeah, have you seen that? Okay. No, that didn't feel as good, right?
Yeah, that didn't feel good.
Oh, I needed
she went all the way.
She went to the mountain.
I needed.
I like it.
She did the
Exercise
Y.
that vagus nerve. That's
Yes.
good.
She did the Y in the MCA.
I needed.
She literally went like this.
No MCA, just why? Why is life like this?
Why is life like what, Jay?
Nah, I'll say honestly,
Talk to
just life be lifing. I just feel like, even waking up today, I wasn't in the mood. If I had the choice and if I had the luxury, I would kind of lock myself away and just work on whatever I have to work on. But life doesn't work like that. And I even tried to head fake myself, and I'm like, yo, let me beat my face. Let me put on an outfit I like. I looked in the mirror. I'm like, well, yeah, girl, you look nice,
You
but
look great.
But you still feel the same. So,
That's very relatable, by the way.
yeah, I just share that. I just feel like, as much as I feel like I'm kind of battling this on my own, I think this is something that a lot of us are probably experiencing. There are days we wish we could just kind of, hide out, and that's not it. You got to show up not only for yourself, but a lot of other people are relying on you. So
100%.
and sometimes, I just got to remind myself, like, these are the valleys, and I'm working to the peaks. So that's how I'm feeling. But I'm optimistic.
Hey.
I feel blessed. I'm so grateful for these 2 beside me. Also, shout out Liz. We miss you. She's out there, fighting the good fight as well. And,
Team entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I'm happy to come and take this Tita break with y'all.
Yeah, we're definitely glad that you showed up and showed out. Honestly, if I could say, outside of like verbally, I wouldn't have known. Like if I didn't know you and I seen you, and I think that's what a lot of us do, right?
Mm-hmm.
We put on the face, we get on stage, and we just go on with the show.
Yeah.
How do you go on with the show, Camille?
How do I go on the show? I think you said it best. Like, I'm very grateful. I think that's just kind of like my default. Last week we had a death in the family, and it was
Sorry.
thank you. It's one of those things where I just feel like that's kind of the only place that I can really go. Right? Like, you said, like, in so many words, life goes on. And I think that's both the most beautiful thing about life, but also the most tragic thing, right?
It's like a dark poetry.
Yeah, right? Because it goes on. Regardless of whether you want it to, it's going to go on. So you can go with it,
Yeah.
or you could not.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
my 2 cents.
No, honestly, I feel like there's just something so real about what we're talking about. And I think you kind of touched on it too, right? It's a beautiful thing. It's a real thing, but it's, there's also a sad side to it.
Yeah.
That you can kind of touch on. So
Well, no rain, no flowers, right?
there we go.
Yep.
There
Flowers
we go.
in bloom. It is spring.
Yeah.
I know the snow didn't show that.
Yeah, up in here in Canada. I can't even English right now.
I
But
can't
up
English.
in Canada, we all thought spring's coming. All the geese are coming back. I'm thinking we're good, and then it snowed. So
Yeah.
typical Toronto weather. I'll
It
say
looked very
that.
Christmas snow yesterday,
Oh, yeah.
though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, pretty to look at when you're inside. Yes,
Excuse me.
but I do not want to partake. I want the summer. I want to bring the shorts back out.
Hey.
But yeah, just now, around the corner. But with that said, we're going to dive deep today. And as much as we're going to be evaluating ourselves, I hope that we're going to be asking questions that you in turn can take away to reflect on your own or within your own circle of friends, your own circle of titas.
Just heard about just before this episode. I've heard the term before, but I never really looked into it or anything. And apparently it's all about behavioral patterns within relationships, specifically within infants and parents, but also just regular relationships, friendships, intimate relationships and the like. So let's dive in here.
Yes. Okay, so there are I'm joking, 4 different styles of attachment styles. So the first one is secure attachment, and bear with me, I'm just going to read off my phone here. Characterized by trust, comfort with intimacy, and a sense of security in relationships.
Yes.
Individuals with secure attachment styles feel confident in seeking support from their caregivers and are comfortable with independence. 2 is anxious, preoccupied attachment. Individuals with this style tend to be overly dependent on their partners, often seeking reassurance and validation. They may worry about abandonment and may exhibit clingy behavior in relationships. Number 3, dismissive, avoidant attachment. People with this style tend to avoid intimacy and emotional closeness in relationships. They often prioritize independence and may have difficulty expressing their emotions or relying on others for support. Last but not least, we have fearful avoidant attachment, bracket, disorganized attachment. So this style combines aspects of both anxious and avoidant attachment. Individuals with this style may desire close relationships, but fear rejection or abandonment, leading to ambivalent behavior in relationships.
Right. So they say it's really important to know your attachment style because just like the love languages and how that plays such a definitive role in your relationships, whether love or friendship, the self-awareness, they say like it's better to understand your patterns of behavior. It also comes from your upbringing. It also comes from if you're the youngest, the middle, the oldest, like that plays a huge factor in your attachment style, like probably the most prominent. And then including how you respond to intimacy, conflict, and emotional needs. So I didn't do a deep dive into it, but I know that I know how crucial it is. And I think I only studied it when it came down to my siblings. Yeah.
Like, did something happen and that you're like, then you came across and you're like, oh, let me look more
that's
into
another
it?
episode.
Well, that's another episode. But I mean, or like, I guess what made you start research? Like, was it an incident that, and you don't have to give details about it, but I mean, like, is that what kind of started your research?
I think it also, it really just births from when someone behaves in a pattern that you don't necessarily understand. So then it becomes, you try to dissect it independently.
Yeah.
And then as you're doing that deep dive, all this came out and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And now your algorithm is now feeding you all this knowledge and you're like, oh, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. No, definitely. I'll be honest as well. Like, I mean, I've heard the term, I kind of get it, but I really don't. And I like just recently started therapy, and that was definitely an ask on my part where I was like, what's my attachment style? Like, I know I can diagnose myself. Like, even like reading the definitions, I was like, oh yeah, I think that's me and me. That like these two are me,
like
right?
A remix.
Yeah, like a mix of these two, but you know. I would like I would like a professional opinion outside of myself as well to like really make sure. And then I think
like a Myers-Briggs for attachment style.
Who's that? No, what do you mean? Oh gosh,
That's an offline conversation.
Oh no,
You should
am I in trouble?
No, not at all.
Myers-Briggs is like a personality. I guess what's
not
the
an assessment, but like a disc profile type. Like you get to understand like.
Oh.
I love taking any kind of like analysis tests where it's like
on self.
Oh,
just you would love Myers-Briggs.
Okay, what is it like a questionnaire? Is it like, and then does it give you like traits in an order, or is it more of like these are your main things? Like,
it's almost like behavioral. questions, and then like you would just pick the one that like best friends.
Is Myers-Briggs the ones where they give you like, oh, you're an NJ115? Like,
I think that's the one, like INTJ.
Yeah.
So I've
A
done
or
something like that. Thankfully, like the place that I was working at paid for it.
Yeah.
So it was really great, but that was also maybe close to like 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
Where like I know I'm a different person from then. Myers-Briggs, I'm writing that down.
Honestly, I know I'm definitely different because when I took it, I think I was like 22 and I scored like, I think the highest level of extrovert.
Really?
Yeah, like I found fuel from other people. Like that is what kept me driven. Where now I'm like, absolutely not. Like, I'm such a social loner. This is what I would like to call myself. Like I would no. I'm so interested to take it now. One family party, we actually all sat around and did that test, and then we read our results.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we went around the table and like talked about yeah, it was a heavy
I'm like I totally want to do it with my family. I'm also just thinking like how my family would react to it. Or
the irony is my dad and my mom are completely different people, but they scored the exact same personality type.
Really?
Yes.
That is
they
so
are the
cool.
same personality type.
Interesting.
That might be a little family thing I'm gonna orchestrate. I'd really like to know that.
I got my sister to do it, and it's so funny because I feel like it's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, you might be fearful to do it with your family, but I think it's one of those things where like people love to be understood. So even if it's something that's like may appear negative to us, they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's me. Like they just like the fact that they feel understood and seen.
Yes.
And like, that's like, oh, I'm not crazy, or I'm not like, vindictive or whatever. Like this is because I'm like this, because I was raised like this, because I had this influence or whatever. So it just feels nice to be seen.
Yeah, it is the acknowledgement. And I think that's why like social media becomes such a role when we're going through things, because you're like, oh, someone else is going through it. Oh, yeah, see? I'm not crazy.
You know, when you find that quote when you're going through something, you're like, oh my God, it speaks to my soul. Like,
well, ever since Camille started sending me these beautiful things, it now starts showing up in my algorithm. And like sometimes I'm having a bad moment or a bad day, and it will pop up. I'm like, oh, I needed that. Okay. But yeah.
Yeah, I like those little signs, those quotes.
But yeah, we totally got off topic from attachment styles.
Yes.
So we were definitely not attached to what we were talking about. So
ew. That was a joke. Anyways. Never mind.
I love the high.
But yeah, no, I think that's definitely something. Well, one, I want to do it for myself, and I'm really intrigued to do it with my family. But that's gonna be like we gotta book that weekend in advance.
Yeah,
everybody
get
needs
food.
to. Yeah, and we all gotta show up and do it. So
Food, drinks,
I'll keep you guys updated on how that
an
goes.
open mind, because you will hear things that you will not like.
Oh Lord.
As the room around you says, yeah. And you're
Yeah,
like,
that's the thing. Yeah, right.
It's
Like,
intense. It
yeah,
was intense.
I bet.
It was definitely humbling for sure.
What kind of attachment style resonated with you when you were reading this? The different styles?
I'm definitely between a couple, but anxious attachment for sure is in there. A little bit of the avoidant attachment. I think it depends on who it is and what the relationship entails. Yeah. What about you?
Well, you called it out in the green room.
I did.
When we were.
I mean, I know my peoples.
I definitely. I think secure attachment best describes me, but in terms of my friendships, I think dismissive avoidant attachment best describes me. So that's the one where it's like people with this style tend to avoid intimacy and emotional closeness in relationships, prioritizing independence and sometimes having difficulty to express emotions or relying on others with for support, which I absolutely hate to do.
Yeah.
Especially like with friends specifically, I'd rather just not.
And do you know that routes from being the older sibling?
Oh, definitely. Like
That's what I mean, like the attachment style is completely on upbringing, on where you are in ranking.
It's crazy. So
Like
I
the
thought that was
anxious
fun.
attachment is from being the child. It's being the bunso, right? Like it's like that need for like, I want to be seen by you. Like, because by the time it gets to the youngest, it's like, yeah, okay.
Which is like a whole other discussion.
Yeah. But not like you didn't get the attention, but I'm
No, no,
saying
no.
like you look up to your siblings in a way where you just want to be seen by them, right? And that births that, I guess, that need for validation. It's not even from your parents, it's like from your siblings.
Interesting.
With your attachment style, basically, it does affect how you will show up and how you respond in your relationships, whether it be with your family, your friends, romantic, work. So with that said, with relationships, how do you guys typically respond to conflict in your relationships? Do you avoid it? Do you become emotional or anxious, or do you have difficulty expressing?
Well, first, before we answer that great question, what is yours? What
I was hoping no one booked it because I was like,
hold up.
okay, fine. I feel like I am a mix between anxious, preoccupied, and fearful, avoidant,
Interesting.
which is
Yeah.
weird because it's kind of like there's a part of me that's like I'm the same where it's like I don't want to like ask for
Yeah.
support. Inside joke, they call me what is it?
Mahia.
Mahia. No, the other one.
Pakipot.
Pakipot.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that one. And then I resonate with the anxious, preoccupied because as much as I don't like to ask for help, I know internally I do want some form of approval or like validation.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll see. And like I said, I'm trying to unpack this. I'm scared to unpack it, but I'm gonna unpack it in therapy.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the two that kind of
Thanks for
resonated with me the
answering.
most. Thanks for remembering.
Someone's going to be
Joke
running through in the
line.
parking lot.
I brought her bottle. I'm fine. I'm safe.
This is true.
She was about to grab it. But yeah.
So
you were saying, how do
you
we-
guys like
yeah.
respond to conflict in relationships? And you can take it from any type of relationship.
You first.
No.
Are we talking like romantic relationships?
Whatever kind of comes to
I guess
mind, but we can
dynamics.
speak on any type of
Okay.
relationship.
I'm typically pretty open. I don't like conflict. I don't think anyone likes conflict. I don't seek it out, but I consider myself to be a very strong communicator. So, I mean, I just kind of take it and just do my best to listen and respond. I don't want to say unemotionally, but I do my best to just kind of think through a different lens because it's so easy to get angry,
Right.
right? Like, so, and that's that once one person blows up, the other person, you've
Yeah,
all been in those
for
scenarios
sure.
where things escalate unnecessarily. And I truly believe in like my heart of hearts and souls of souls that a lot of conflict arises from lack of communication. So to kind of break that cycle, someone has to talk.
Yeah.
Someone has to, how do I say this? Like, support stronger communication, support, healthy communication.
No,
So
100%.
I do take on, I don't know, again, if it's an older sibling thing, but I do take on that role.
I also heard that you can't meet emotion with emotion. You have to meet emotion with rationale, right? Like when you have one person being emotional and then the other person is being emotional, it's going to go absolutely nowhere. The communication cannot develop properly if one cannot stand ground and be like, you know what, you're here. I have to stay here in order for this to at least alleviate and like get through this tide, right?
For it to be constructive, for
Yeah.
there to be some form of solution.
Right.
Both can have emotion, but at least one person
One has to,
be
like-
grounded.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then that also comes back to your point. Then you need to have strong communication skills. You
Right.
can also be grounded and then, but
Have
not getting your
crap
point across.
communication.
Because there's
Exactly.
also like there's a straw, right? There's a breaking point.
yeah.
To piggyback off that, I think I communicate. I wouldn't define myself as a strong communicator, but I would define myself as someone who communicates well when I feel heard. And I think that is attached to being anxious attachment, because if I don't feel heard, then I feel like I'm on defense now. I instantly have to feel like I'm overcompensating for the things that you're not hearing.
Yeah.
So now I'm going like full throttle, and because I'm trying to make up for you over talking me or talking over me or not acknowledging what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
I'll say that whenever I do get defensive, or if I'm in a conversation, when I realize I start cutting the person off,
right,
or I'm my face feels hot, like those like physical kind of signs.
It's a physical reaction.
Even though I'm like showing up to this conversation and I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to talk. Like, but I can hear myself and I have to catch myself. Sometimes I'm like, I have to remove myself because I know this is not going to go anywhere because I'm not in the right spot to have this conversation yet. But
that's another thing I'll do. I can also retreat a lot. I think it varies. Like I'm really good at like disappearing into the abyss as well.
Yeah.
And just finding myself in my art and just trying to like come back.
Yeah. I will say when I was younger, I was definitely more reactionary, and I think I would take advantage of my like family members, like just acting out on however I felt in the moment. Then obviously we grow up. And I would say as an adult, it's like, yeah, I will still have those kind of instinctual or preliminary feelings or thoughts. But now I do, even if I get upset, it's like, I think it's so important to like, okay, hold on, take a step back and either talk myself through my emotions before I can even get to like, okay, what are the points here? Like that's the thing. It's like I'll react, but then it's like, in order for it to be constructive, like I have to make sure that I'm going into this conversation like with actual facts. I feel like I'm kind of gearing off, but like
No, it makes sense. I think you mentioned
sense.
this in a past episode too, like, and I've actually witnessed it with you. You like to like retreat and like collect what you're going to say before you actually have the conversation. So that way it's actually, it makes sense.
There's so many times I've like jumped into conversation
and
with so much emotion. Right. And or like straight up just saying nasty things that really didn't even have to be said, but I was hurt in the moment, you know? So it doesn't justify it. Or like sometimes things will come out that like, you never know how much damage that could do as well. Right. And then you can't even retract from that. So
100%.
But yeah, in terms of how I deal with conflict, I try my best to just make sure I'm collected before like really talking. And then there are times where I'm just like, I just need space. Like I'll literally just cut and be like, I can't do this right now.
That's important though.
Yeah.
That's important though, because like if you can't communicate, like just kind of going back to that point, like then you shouldn't be in that scenario yet, right? Like it's not, I know some people are like fans of like letting it all out, and like maybe there's a time and a place. It really depends on the scenario, who you're with, whatever.
Yeah.
Like for me, I prefer to go in with curiosity. Like it's not too different. Like I don't handle it differently than I would like when I was a manager and handling staff. Like I have to go in curious, because otherwise I'm making assumptions. I can't assume that you're mad because of this. I can't assume that this is how you're going to feel about certain things. I have to go in there curious about what's on your mind,
right?
Because that's the only way that I can exercise compassion, that I can exercise communication. Otherwise, everything is just made up in my mind, right? Based on what I experienced or thought I heard or whatever.
No, I really resonate with that. Also, if we flip it to the work environment, that's a whole different game. Like you can't pop off on random work on coworkers.
Absolutely
one,
not.
And then two.
I mean, you can.
People can also have completely different, like, show up completely different to work.
Yeah.
People have really strong poker faces as well, right? So to your point, it's like that's a great trait to have or mindset to have when you, as a leader in workspaces, you have to have curiosity. You can't assume, making sure that you have all the information from all the people before making important decisions that and all, also affect like full teams and things like that. So
100%. Like small example, I remember, sometimes people would come in late. I had to have a conversation with you about being late. Not about you. This isn't about you. I'm not going to use your
They used to work together.
Really?
For anyone that doesn't know, if you just joined the Tita tribe, they used to work together back in the day.
She was my boss.
Long
But anyway.
and I remember having conversations with different people, like sometimes other managers, like my junior managers or whatever. And like a lot of the times people have stuff going on in their life.
Yeah.
It's just facts. Like, you know, a sick parent or child or whatever the case may be,
Responsibilities,
mental health, all these things, going through a separation. Like there's a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Imagine you're just going in there, well, you were 5 minutes late and I see you have a coffee. So you stop to get, like, you know, and people do make those assumptions. But in reality, it's like, maybe that coffee they needed to be an extra 2 minutes late so they can get through the day.
Yeah.
Right? What's more important to me in this moment? The fact that this person's showing up and they're okay, or, you know, checking the attendance record.
Yeah.
We had to do, prior to you, we had to do, I think, 20 push-ups for every minute we were late.
Oh.
I hate stuff like that. But it was that was the culture of the workplace.
Yeah.
though.
It was also the gym.
Literally that.
Yeah, this was the corporate office.
Literally
guys.
that. So.
Oh, man.
But still, to recognize what you're saying, I love that you think like that. So yes, another question was, how do I view dependency and independence in relationships? So I guess, do I prefer to rely on others for support and comfort, or do I value independence? I guess we could start there.
I value independence.
Yeah, I know.
I value independence.
Surprise, surprise.
That's definitely, I think, the out there in us.
I value support. I do value support. I need to know that. I don't think I need to know. I prefer to know that you can show up for me. Because if I'm going to like dive deeper into that, I think when you're the youngest, because you don't have anyone to look out for, you almost over show up. If that makes sense, because you're overcompensating for not being able to like take care of something.
I see.
Oh,
right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So in return, you almost have, I wouldn't say, I don't want to define it as an expectation, but you want people to show up for you because you know how much you can pour in and you want to pour in. Like it's like this internal child that just wants to take care of something because you're always being taken care of. But yeah.
I've only started to rely on someone for support when I met my husband. So like that was something I'm not typically that vulnerable with people. I don't know, whatever. That's just how I am. Take it or leave it. Doesn't matter
I
to
want
me.
some of that to rub off on me.
But it wasn't until I met my husband and, you know, over the last 10 years we've been together, like I really have I don't want to say let my guard down. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but like I definitely feel like I rely on him.
A little bit in
And
your
it was-
soft era.
Yeah. And like it was weird when I started to feel that way because I'm like,
What's
happening to me? Like, you know, like I was morphing and melting.
Who am
and,
I
like,
now?
Yeah. Like, you know,
I'm wearing you down.
there's some things like he does. And I'm just like, oh, Justin has to do it. I'm like, since when? Like, since when did you have to wait for this man to do these things? And it feels, I'd be lying to you if I said it didn't feel great to be able to rely on him and have someone, you know, take care of me.
Yeah.
As the older sibling who often takes care of everyone else.
He's the youngest, is you
And
know?
he's the youngest. Yeah.
Oh,
And
look at that.
And he really steps in. He really, you guys are mad
What
at
did I
him,
just
right?
say?
Like, yeah, exactly.
Did that make
Top
sense?
notch.
It's
Top
true. He
guy.
really
Good
steps
guy.
in.
Actually, my sister's the oldest, and my brother-in-law, her husband, is also the youngest.
hilarious.
And it works because of exactly what I just said.
I love the opposite. Like
Yeah.
the way that they attract. It's great, honestly.
You need that opposite. Like imagine being with someone
Absolutely
exactly
not.
like
Absolutely not. Absolutely. I've always said I would never, ever.
you guys would be fighting for independence.
We wouldn't even be friends. We wouldn't even be friends.
You wouldn't need each other.
Yeah. That's it. It's like you exist, I exist. That's enough for me.
You need
like,
the balance. You need that like push and pull, right?
yeah, for sure.
What about you?
So it's like, yeah, I appreciate my independence, but then I have moments where I'm just like humbled when friends and family like kind of like step in or do something that I didn't even ask for.
Yeah.
And then it's in those moments that I'm like, man, like I really appreciate it. And I don't know, I guess it's important because you can't take everything on by yourself.
Says who? No I'm kidding.
So yeah, I think it's important to have the two, but I think instinctually it's very like, I'll just figure it out. Or I'm like too shy to ask for help. And then I don't know if
Such
that
a
comes
Acha
from
thing.
like pride or like giving off that sign of weakness that like, you know,
It's a big sis thing too.
yeah. And even that, I'm like, do I dig into that into therapy? Like, where is that? Is that like, you know,
Oh,
what
you
happened
definitely
to me?
have to dig
what happened
into
to me
that.
as a kid that I'm like, I can't ask for help, you know? Like, who knows? I don't know. I'm totally just making that up.
Because you are the help. in your eyes. You're like, I am the provider. I am the person that's going
It's
to
true.
assist you.
Yeah.
That's also where I find like, or like I guess credit some of my value, right? Or like what I can bring for my loved ones, and how I show up. But yeah.
So much to think about there.
It is.
Yeah.
So, next question is, do you feel anxious when you're not in constant contact with your partner or loved ones?
Anxious.
I'm trying to think of like something to compare to, and I'm like, yeah, then I feel the like, oh, I need them there or whatever. But like,
I think the irony is, I think there's specific people I might feel that, i.e., my parents. I think growing up, like, I love how the tables have really turned as you grow older, because my parents used to like have to call me a lot, blow my phone up before I would actually pick up or return the call. And now it's like I'm calling them down, like to the point where my mom's like, okay, I gotta go. I'm like, go where? You're retired.
yeah,
I just want to talk to you.
mom,
Like, what'd you eat today? What'd you do today? What'd you watch today? Like, so like the child has been reborn, and like it's now like I'm constantly asking them what they have a more social life than I do. So yeah, like that switch. So I think I only feel anxious in certain dynamics like that, where like, you know, your parents are getting older. I just want to know what you're doing.
Agreed. My mom used to always message me with a weather update every morning. Every single morning. Every single morning.
like the way they show their love, or like
Yeah,
their
yeah,
care,
yeah,
right? It
yeah,
just comes
yeah.
up in like different ways,
and then
but-
she stopped doing it.
and you're like, what the hell?
Right? Like, who do you think you are? Like, you know, like,
How am I gonna know what to wear?
dare
Exactly.
you?
How can I leave my house, mom?
Right? How dare you?
How
Like,
do I
was
know
very-
what socks to wear?
Literally,
Yeah.
like, I don't know what I'm gonna wear today.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so it just became like a thing, and she stopped for a while, and then she started doing it again recently because we have like a family group chat.
Yeah.
And she does it there, and my sister's like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Actually, she used to do it for me for so long." I'm glad she brought it back. It's like
Yes.
her favorite show coming back on air, right? Like it's really nice. But
Is that why you took to your Instagram and shared your weather update yesterday?
no, Anna, it's called sarcasm.
So I feel like I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I am guilty as a friend. Like I'm not the one to always be like, hey, how are you? Hey, like checking in like consistently.
Yeah.
But I think when I do feel anxiety is when, like you kind of touched on it before we started recording, the whole like, if I feel like, are they mad at me? Did I do something? Or
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
even though I know I didn't do something, but I'm like, but what if they interpreted my action like this? Then it's like, I need that validation to be like, we're good, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then, but then sometimes in the workplace, so then not like friend or personal relationship, I'll have those thoughts, but then I won't act on it because
You're in a workplace.
profession-
I'm a leader
Professionalism
or I'm like, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Or I'm managing this team and I don't want
Game
to show.
face on.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want it to be like, hey, how do you feel? Like, did you think
Are
I
you
did this
mad at
thing?
me?
Are you mad at me? Like, yeah, you know what I mean? To someone who should be reporting into you. And it's like,
Right.
stay strong. So that's when I feel anxiety, I guess. But then, yeah, so it's like, where does that come from? I don't know.
Okay. Good answer. Very relatable. Definitely the workplace thing. It's like church and state, right?
Yeah.
Do you prioritize your own needs and independence over the needs of your friends, family, relationships?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Camille.
No, sorry. No. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, okay, when I was younger, I think I definitely overserved more.
100%.
Now that I'm older, I'm like, okay, better. I want to
Me.
have better boundaries, right?
Yeah.
And also, if I'm not the one placing those boundaries, like people are gonna take advantage of me. But then I also want to make sure that, especially when my loved ones are like, I know they're in places of hurt or like they need that support or they're not being confident in self or need that extra,
Yeah,
you
y'all
know,
show up
whatever.
for
Like
sure.
100%, I got you. Like showing up for sure.
I think it's irony that both of you, it's hard to receive.
It's like, thanks. It's like I know it's coming from a good place, but sometimes it's like it's hard for me to just
Like,
be
I
like,
didn't
thanks.
ask for it.
Yeah.
And I'm
And it's
just
funny.
like, just take this gift of love.
Also, if you think about it, if you take a step back, I feel like Filipinos, we're just like serving by nature.
Yeah.
Facts.
right? Or we're
Facts.
known for like the things that the stereotypes that they say about Filipinos, right? So there's also that I think to consider. That's something that we're all kind of raised on or surrounded by.
Yeah.
Which, like, again, like you said, your upbringing, right?
Yeah.
It's true.
That plays a part.
I made you
in it
bought
all.
one, yeah.
We're good at just
That was actually a
being
moment where I
there.
was like, I didn't even ask her. I was like, this is the sweetest thing ever.
It really
like,
hit. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We're good at
No.
just being there, like showing up for sure.
I think it's always the little things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you guys like little gestures or do you like grandiose?
Small.
Small,
If
small,
if
intimate.
necessary. If the gesture is necessary.
I like small, but I'm not mad at grandiose once in a while. You know what I mean? Once in a while, once in a blue moon.
I don't like
like
the expectation of a grand. That's why
yeah,
I'd
no
rather take
expectation.
littles.
I'm just saying it's nice.
For
Every
example,
once in a while.
guys, when Camille walked in today, she gave me a little baggy bag. And me and Camille, see, she's awkward there because I'm sharing something.
Shield.
She gave me, we're both Hello Kitty lovers, shout out. She gave me some neon green Hello Kitty ankle socks
Cute. See,
I-
small, but that's a
small
small
gesture.
gesture.
with my Tupperware.
Functional yet thoughtful.
In this last little bit here, we're going to talk about our expectations around the reliability and availability of the people in our relationships. First question.
Oh,
Do I expect my partner or loved ones to always be available when I need them?
define need.
I mean, it varies, right?
Like I need to
like,
talk just to talk, or I need something like substantial. Like
I would say need in terms of substance. Like I don't think, and I also think it depends on like the health of the relationship too, right? Like to your,
Yeah.
like, you know, I think some people just need you to occupy their time, but like that's not.
I feel like it's rare that I'll go to my loved ones to be like, oh my God, like I like whatever that form of support is. But I guess like when I do need that, I have like a small handful of people that I'm like, I know I can go to, and like
right.
I get it. I'm also like a reasonable person. Like obviously if I'm hitting you up in the middle of the workday, you know, I'm not gonna be like drop everything.
Yeah.
But also if I was to make it a big case, they may come through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They could.
Yeah.
But do I have that hard expectation on my loved ones? No. But I know I do have people, worst case scenario, if it ever got there, yes, I could go to them.
Yeah. I think like you, like my list is very small as to like who I can always feel like, you know, when things hit the fan, like I know no matter what, I can call this person.
Yeah.
I feel like the word expectation is something that just it's weighing a little bit heavy because I don't know if it's so much an expectation as it is more so the people that you intentionally choose to be in your life at this big age would probably show up for you without that expectation. Because I feel like, you know, as we weed through people as we grow older, it's like we choose friends are the family that you choose in a sense. So I don't think I have necessarily the expectation because the people I do choose to have around me, I know they would show up if I needed them. If that makes sense.
No, yeah, I get that.
I wouldn't have people around me where I'm like, I wonder if they would show up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
There's a reason why they're not around.
Like I feel like
if that was the case.
I think I graduated from like keeping like large numbers of people and like, you know, like quality over quantity.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I don't know if I would expect them to. I think I just know they would.
Have you guys ever had a relationship or had someone in your life where like you realized they weren't someone you couldn't go to because you'd be sharing? Well, yes, but I mean, like, have you ever had that situation where you shared something and they're like, "Oh my God, yeah, I know that happened," but it's like in some way it ends up turning about themselves,
and then you
it's
try
like,
to switch it back.
and it's like
And it still goes
I'm
back
trying
to
to
them?
share to like vent, but then
100%.
anyways,
I feel like sometimes that person is me, not because I'm trying to
really?
relate. Not like,
Oh, no,
not
okay.
in terms
No,
of
no,
like,
I see what you're
it's my
saying.
turn to talk, but it's just like, okay, I understand because I had a similar circumstance. And in that case, this is how I dealt with it.
Yes.
Is that how you're feeling? Like almost to help analyze
But there's
it.
a, there's a, to me, there's a
that's
difference there.
different.
Exactly. To me, there's a difference.
no.
You're also a
No.
master communicator too.
100%. Yeah, she just communicated right now.
Yeah.
I think there's like people, because I do that too. Sometimes I'm like, hey, I totally can
Yeah, you
relate
wanna
because
show that
I've
they're
gone
not
through
alone.
something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
But I've also had I'm speaking more on like the negative side of the scale where it's like, what? Like that.
It's like their turn
like
to
they're
share.
trying to be like, oh, I totally relate, but it's like it doesn't really connect to
my
what
God.
I'm
Yeah,
doing,
and
and now I don't
That's
feel,
so
and then I don't feel like I'm supported by you, or you're not even hearing what I'm really saying
Right,
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 now.
And they
right.
downplay the complete relevance of the emotional part of what you're
Right.
going
Yeah,
through
yeah,
by
yeah,
doing that.
yeah.
Right.
No, for
Because
sure.
now it's like you're talking about you about something that has nothing to do with what I am being vulnerable about.
Right.
yeah,
And how did we get there?
yeah.
That's a perfect segue to my next question.
Dun, dun, dun.
Do
So
you guys,
smooth, Cam, so
Right?
smooth.
I know she is like butter. Like butter, baby.
Do you guys have difficulty trusting others to be there to support you?
Depending, like I said, the small handful of people that I can go to for sure, them I don't question. But when it's like for example, work, sometimes with maybe certain family members, it's like again, it comes back to that like, I don't know if it's my pride or like I don't want to be let down or just like it can be a mix of things depending on the scenario.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be hard for me sometimes.
I think before. I think now I'm like I was saying in just your last question, like I'm very intentional with who I keep around me. And the company that you keep is a huge factor in like what your life will actually look like, what it will shape into and where it will go and how you even self assess yourself and what growth looks like from that self assessment from the people you're around.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. No. I don't have a problem with that.
I think I would. I don't typically ask my friends for help. I don't like to do that. I don't know if I'll ever be okay with that. I just ask my partner and my mom
Yeah.
or anyone who's been like a parental figure to me. Like if my mom can't help, then I'll ask like my uncles or something like that. But like other than that, like I'm not asking for help.
Yeah, but to find help, right?
Yeah.
Like it could be as simple as like, hey, can you pick up this?
No,
Oh my God.
unless they're on their way to my house for a barbecue and I need ice. Like
Yeah.
that's different. But like anything else, I'm not asking.
Your answer is
I
making
cannot.
me think. Yeah.
Like I'm so like I hear what you're saying about the specificity of like who you surround yourself
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
But it's also reading the room. Like I wouldn't ask
Yeah.
you to bring me ice.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
I know in what capacity you would show up for me and in what situation I know I can count on you.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need Camille to bring me ice? No. Someone that lives around the corner from me, that's also my, will they bring me? Sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like knowing.
Do you want me to bring ice to you?
Was that a call?
Is that an indirect way of
You
asking
never
for
bring ice. But like that doesn't negate from like me knowing the relevance of the role you play, right?
Right. Yeah.
And how you actually show up. Like
I think for me the problem with asking friends for help is because I feel like, and this is not to separate like the importance or like diminish the importance of like friends in your life, but like for me it's like if it's most of the things that I'm asking for help with or if I need support, it's because it's a family matter or a personal matter. I'm going to go to my family with that. I personally don't feel like it's right for me to burden my friends with that because they have their own things going on, their own families, their own
Right.
stuff that I don't
Yeah.
even know about.
Right.
You know what
True.
I mean? Like I'm not going to ask you for help over someone who's closer to the situation.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just how I see it. Like
No,
it's a
for sure.
proximity
That's
thing, right?
very
It's making me
realistic.
think. I'm like, yeah,
Like I'm not. I just don't do it. Like I don't
depends
know
on what it is for me.
yeah, it really depends.
I guess,
Like I don't have I asked you guys for anything?
like just like time accommodations with like within our schedules.
Within our
like we're
group,
asking
yeah.
each other. Like that's the only thing that I would think
That's
of. Like
true, but
asking
we're
my
not,
friends for
like-
help because like oh my schedule changed. I need this date to be our new recording
Yeah.
date or something like that. But,
But
other
see,
than that,
in
I'm not
my
asking.
in my eyes, that is you guys showing up. Like when you guys understand that I can't show up to a recording or I, need to reschedule, it's like you guys are instantly like, no questions asked. Let's try to work around it. That is that is also how I define like you guys showing up.
See why it's so important to know your attachment styles
Right.
and talking
And
to your
talk about
people.
it.
Because
Yeah.
honestly,
Because look how things can just even be interpreted, right?
Yeah,
like no one's in the wrong here or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
it's
But
just
that
two
is
different
showing up because
perspectives,
if you
right?
have a different kind of friend and you say, hey, I can't show up here, a friend from my past would probably look at that I'm not showing up, period. Because they're not looking out for you. So there's just different ways to look at people showing up. So yeah, when I say need, it's not, hey, I need something in physical. It's I need to change my schedule. Can you guys understand that? And I don't say those words, but you guys do understand it when I
Yeah.
need it. Do
No,
you know
for
what I
sure.
mean?
Yeah.
So you guys show up for me all the time.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Camille's gonna throw up.
She feels warm and fuzzy
I'm fine.
right now.
Give me a hug.
What is this? Oh man, I will say. So I hope that we left you guys with some questions
And some
that you know, turn or look yourself in the mirror and kind of see what your attachment styles are.
Yeah, let
How
us
do you
know.
show up in relationships?
Yeah.
How do you interpret conflict within relationships and all of that? Because I definitely had a lot to think about today, and all the more reason that I want to continue to learn more about my attachment style and do this with my family.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun.
I feel like it's good, but it's like, I'm bracing myself because it's gonna be a lot.
Thank you for this break, guys.
Yeah, thank you for this break. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back
Next week.
next week.
Ingat.
Ingat, y'all.
Got a little